Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88-85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in a scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Once coaches get involved, of course, they've got their own opinions about what fits best for what they want to do, and that could be drastically different than what the scouts say.
Well, you're looking at traits, and remember when he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
One thing good about Kevin, he's been with 2 other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around.
The Bears.
With Greg Olson, Jerry didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't want to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. One guy wanted to get rid of him, Mike Martz, because Mike Martz didn't know what the hell to do with him. We tried to talk Lovey out of hiring Mike Martz for a month and a half. He's playing zone, but number one, he doesn't get enough depth with the drop. But who the hell's Gilbert? How many times does a 305, 310-pound defensive tackle drop into coverage, especially in a key situation?
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate. There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh episode of GTF Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia. A couple of programming notes. Tonight, a very special somebody big just died. If you're a fan of boxing, then you know George Foreman, and you know that he recently passed away, or maybe you don't. But nonetheless, Mike North will eulogize him along with Joe Mandel right here in the Barroom Network, and that is tonight. I want to say it's at 7 p.m., but the best way to find out about all of our live programming is to subscribe to the YouTube channel here at the Barroom Network, and you'll get alerts on your devices to when we go live. And then we've got tons of programming throughout the week. In addition, I'd love for you to go over to Shimon Draft Scout. That's just one word, Shimon Draft Scout. That's the YouTube channel. Danny Shimon is going to release his first ever mock draft 1.0000000. We did some taping for it last night, and I'm piecing it all together for him, and that should be released on either tomorrow or Wednesday. So head over to Danny's YouTube channel. But everyone is here to listen to the voice and wisdom of a gentleman by the name of Greg Gabriel, and he is with me now. Greg, how are you, my friend?
Better than I was last week.
Yeah, tell people what happened last week.
I got a little COVID.
Little COVID.
Caught it from my wife.
Oh, my goodness. And so how is she feeling now?
She's been back to work since Friday.
Good.
She got it like 5 days before.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then I started getting a headache, so I said, well, the next day, so this was Wednesday, the headache was worse, and I was getting stuffy, so I said, well, I better take the test, and test came out positive. But no, what's weird is that, so I sent a text to my doctor, and, he's the guy that gives me all the precautions because of my lung issues. So I said, do I need to take Paxlovid or something like that? He goes, take a couple ibuprofen. That's it.
This is the guy that told you it could cause death if you ever get COVID, huh?
Well, I've been vaccinated, and really it's like a bad cold.
Yeah. Well, and so you might cough a little bit today. I'll try to hit the mute button, but it's not a dire situation, just some uncomfort over the last few days, huh?
Yeah. Not bad. I put it this way, it didn't stop me from doing all my work.
There you go. Look at this guy. Continues to work. He lets me know, I'm talking to the audience here. He lets me know that he has COVID. He says, but don't worry, I'll still do the show on Monday. That's how dedicated he is to this thing. So,
no, I'll tell you what now. I never took sick days unless I had a surgery.
Wow.
Hey, we were brought up in a different world.
Oh,
you
shit.
didn't take days off.
Yeah, I hear you. I took a couple of days off and I had hangovers, but that's a different story for a different show.
I can tell you a funny story about that.
Please tell us.
It was when I was doing my rehab for the my knee replacement.
Okay.
So I had an appointment New Year's Eve, and so this was like 4 years ago, and on the night of the 30th, my wife and I ended up, we made a nice dinner. We drank 1 bottle of wine. We drank 2 bottles of wine. We drank 2.5 bottles of wine. I mean, like I was shit-faced, totally. And I had on New Year's Eve, I had like an appointment at 8 o'clock or 8:30 at the physical therapist because they were only going to work till noon, being there's no way in hell I could go. And then I had to pay for the damn appointment because I, cut out on it the same day.
Wow. That wine, 2.5 bottles of wine, man. That's wild. Greg, before we start the show, I got a couple of messages here from some of your followers. Brian Hanna says, "Hey, Aldo, Greg blocked me, but I'm his biggest fan and always have his back. Can you please ask why Mr. Spanners the Nuts?" I guess that's
the Twitter name.
I guess that is it. Mr. Spanners the Nuts. If Brian, if you want to just confirm that's the Twitter name, he will unblock you. And then somebody else. And then Jason Squires has another one here. He says, "Greg, please unblock at Barber Squires. I'm not sure we ever had a bad interaction." You know what happens with this is you were caught in the crossfire. It's called friendly fire in the military, right? Yeah. So there you go. We'll get.
You know what I do? If I see a stupid comment, I just automatically dog. And I tell you, after what happened to Bernstein.
Yeah, right.
I put out a tweet last week just saying if 670 to the score does the right thing,
I saw that
they'll elevate Layla Rahimi, to a full-time gig. Now she was full-time,
right? Then
had to leave because she had a TV gig,
right?
That stopped for whatever reason. So she's been, filling a fill-in person, I guess, at the Score and working almost full time.
Yeah.
She sent me a nice note.
Oh, nice.
It got a lot of play. I'm going to say 50 to 60,000 hits.
Whoa.
The thing got, and I got a lot of responses and a lot of positive ones, but a lot of really asshole ones too. And so I just immediately blocked those people. I think that thing is caused by my iPad. I'm going to do something with that.
Yeah, it's a little. There it is. It's gone. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, because I noticed it last week when I turned off the iPad. It went away.
Yeah, for people in the audio podcast, Greg is referring to like a little red flashing in the lower right-hand corner of his screen. I see it coming back now.
I don't see it.
Just really, really minute in the lower right. But nonetheless, the worst part of it is gone, and we will continue. So, Layla Rahimi, you have endorsed her to replace Dan Bernstein. What did you think about the whole Bernstein firing?
They got rid of what was the other guy's name for a lot less? Dan McNeil.
Dan McNeil, yes.
They got rid of Dan for a lot less, and so I think that they had to do something.
Yeah, I figure that they probably, tried to talk to him during those few days. And he would not, I'm guessing, I'm totally speculating, but knowing Dan as much as I do, having listened to him over the years, he probably got very obstinate about the idea of issuing an apology to this person. And Dan Bernstein is a very political liberal, and he had this interaction with somebody who is a MAGA supporter. And so there is no way that Dan Bernstein would give in to a MAGA supporter.
Yeah, but
so
that's over a damn fish.
I know, it's so stupid.
Come on.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I'll tell you one thing. I've never seen anyone in Chicago sports media be as divisive as Dan Bernstein. You either love him or hate him. There's like almost no in between.
Before I ever met him, I didn't like him because he was just such an a-hole on the radio. And then when I started doing work for The Score back around 2011, and then I had to do shows from the studio, went down there and I met him, sat down and talked with him. Actually, he was really a nice guy.
Yeah,
so it's like, get him away, get that microphone away from him. And he's really a nice guy.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So I wish him luck wherever he goes, and I wish Layla Rahimi luck, and hopefully she lands that job and we've got a regular new voice about Chicago sports. All right, let us talk about the topics at hand. The main theme of the show is that Greg wanted to present his evaluation of some of the players who might be there at number 10 when the Chicago Bears are scheduled to select in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. So I'm going to bring up a name first, if you don't mind, Greg, and that's the running back everyone is talking about now. It's Ashton Jeanty. Could he fall to 10, and would it be a wise choice for the Chicago Bears to acquire the Boise State running back?
Well, the second part of your question, I'm not going to answer. That's not my call. That's Ryan Pohl's call.
All right.
And I think this draft is different than any draft we've seen in recent years. And I've said this before, in that it's, you got a handful of pretty good players at the top. Yep. And after that, there's a drop off. And everybody else is like in the same basket. And I called it 52 pickup once. that might be a pretty good call. In other words, you could take any of 10, 12, 13 guys, and there's not a big difference between each one, different positions. It's flavor. Who do you like? So because of that, it's really going to be, who do the Bears like? Personally, I think they're going to trade out. I think that this draft is ideal for that. And somebody will say, well, if everybody's got the same grade, why would somebody want to trade out? Because there's some people that want a specific player. Yes, they're, at a certain position and whatever. And so that gives them the onus to try to move up and get that particular player. So, in all honesty, we had a situation like this in 2006, and we had a late, like 27th pick or something like that. And I started calling teams about 4 days before, because we made up our mind that we probably wanted to move. And I just, I called on, how far do you want to go down? We figured, okay, we'd go down like 7 spots or something like that. And we ended up going farther than that. But, when I called, I just said, hey, the guy we want might not be there. And if that's the case, we may be interested in moving. Just wanted to let you know. And, if you guys want to move up, that's all you say. And they go, okay, great, thanks. And then you just don't say another word until you get phone calls. And we got phone calls. We got a shitload of phone calls. We had at least 6 teams trying to get that pick, and 2 were in a bid. I mean, literally bidding with each other while we were waiting to go on the clock. And so we ended up trading with Buffalo. The Colts wanted the pick real bad too, but Polian wouldn't give in as much as we wanted. And he ended up trading for like the next pick or 2 picks later. So, I mean, he was dying to get into that last part of the first round. But that allowed us to get Devin Hester. And that was one of the reasons why we made that trade. This trade, like I say, what's the difference between picking at 10 and, say, picking at 16 or something like that? Not a big difference unless you're fully in love with the player. So now you go down about 5 spots, you're going to get a third, and you could use another third.
Sure thing.
Okay, you go 8 spots, you're going to get a 2. And so it's worthwhile in the long run, because you don't just look at, too many people look at the first pick and then they piss and moan until the next day. You got to wait till all the picks come in, because believe it or not, they got a plan, and they're going from that plan, and that's only the first part of the plan, which is the first pick. And so you got to see how everything else falls into place. Sometimes plans don't work out the way you want, but my thinking right now, that could obviously change, is I would think that that's what they would favor to do, but I can't, I don't know that for sure. Not that anybody tell me. Now, is Jeanty going to be there? If you look at all the mocks, no. Everybody and their mother's got him going to the Raiders, which means he probably won't go to the Raiders. Great runner. I mean, he's strong, compact build. He's only 5'8.5", 210, 211 pounds. Don't know how fast he is. We're going to find that out this week at his pro day. He's, his after contact balance is very, very good. He's got good vision, finds the open seams, can break tackles. For a guy that's smaller, he's got a lot of power. Obviously, you can see the speed he's got. He breaks a lot of long runs. Now, there is some bad news, and I think it's bad news for the Bears if the Bears are thinking of it. And I did this Thursday. The tape I got, courtesy of the East West, because I do work for the East West, is I can put in certain things that I want. So if I watched every single target he had in 2023 and 2024.
Okay.
And, this year he was targeted 29 times, caught 23, 5 drops, 1 overthrow. But 5 drops is a lot for 29 targets. 1 downfield throw all year. It's all little outs or, little flat routes, screens, check downs, types of things. In other words, he's not used this year. He was not used in the passing game in a way that he'd be used in a Ben Johnson type offense. And when you see all the 5 drops, you go, whoa. And also you think, well, wow, this is a guy you want to get in space because of what a good runner he is. So you'd want to use him more in the passing game. But guess what? He averaged on 23 receptions, 6 yards a catch.
Ooh, wow.
He's not as good with the ball in his hand as a receiver as he is as a running back. I can't answer why. I don't know. So I went back. He had, 42 or 43 catches the year before. Only had 2 drops. And they actually used him a little bit more downfield, I think 4 times or maybe 5 times downfield. A couple were angle routes, which is mean you go out on an angle like this and then cut back across over the middle. And It's usually only about an 8-yard pass. So I call that and they generally can be big gainers for running backs. Tight ends use that same route also. And then he had a couple deeper throws, but generally, again, dump offs, flat passes, screens, those types of things. And so it just, to me, it's like his pro day this week, not only for the time, because the coaches who go in there to work them out will have a lot of emphasis on the pass game, because you only can do so many different running drills. They're only going to do like a half a dozen running drills, if that. So they're going to check the pass part and have him run routes and catch the ball. And he didn't do any of that at the combine. So I think that'll be really, really interesting to see, how good he is running routes, how he adjusts to the ball, how clean he catches the ball. The other thing I saw too was when he doesn't have a real big catch radius. He has a couple extended catches, but most of the catches are in here. So that just, I'm not going to say it rubbed me the wrong way. I saw him a little different. So right away I'm going, is he the type that Ben Johnson would want? Now, chances are he's not going to be there. But to me, it's, I'm not going to say it's a red flag, but it's a yellow flag anyway, in that you got to find out the answers, and you're going to find out the answers either at the pro day this week or in a private workout, which would happen between the pro day and the draft, or sometime in between. But you gotta before you draft him, you gotta answer those questions, because if he can't be a big part of your passing game, then why would you spend a top 10 pick on him?
Greg, a lot of comments in the chat room about the level of competition Jeanty played. So you, as someone who has evaluated guys from all sorts of different conferences, how do you go about kind of assessing, all right, he went up against this type of competition and so forth?
We always played a couple P4 schools, but when they got to the playoffs, except for one run in the fourth quarter when the game was already over, he did nothing against Penn State. Now, granted, Penn State has a hell of a defense, but they pretty much stopped him. So, yeah, you're going to look at that, but you got to look at the innate running skills. The guy's a good back. When the ball's in his hands as a runner, he's good. There's no question. He's got really great acceleration, really good vision at the line of scrimmage, can make jump cuts, quick cuts. He's elusive. He's got speed. I'd be shocked if he didn't run in the low 4.4s the way he plays, but we'll find out later this week. You got to turn your thing on.
That performance against Penn State was kind of an eye-opener for me, because in the first half, he was totally bottled up by that Penn State defense.
Yeah, but he's played Oregon and stuff and
had good games. Yes, indeed. But it just appeared to me that Penn State had a plan, and a very successful plan to stop Jeanty, and that just killed the entire offense. But yeah, because of the competition, I would imagine he's somewhat of a risk to say. So you said that you weren't going to say whether the Bears should pick him or not, but if he's there at 10, do you think that there will be draft interest in him? Trade interest in him?
Well, I mean, first of all, it would be Ryan and Johnson's call on that. Johnson's got to be driven to have him. What grade do they have on him? So if you look at like Bears Twitter and stuff, a lot of them want Jeanty because he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, that's their opinion. But there's only one with this particular player. There's only two opinions that count: Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they really want him and he's there, they'll take him. It's real simple. Personally, I don't think he'll be there, but stranger things have happened.
Levante brings up a good point when he says, how enamored are the Steelers with Jackson Dart or Shadur Sanders? If one of those quarterbacks are there, they could be prime trade partners with the Bears. So the quarterbacks issue.
Well, Sanders won't be. I think Sanders I think got locked into the Giants when they signed Jameis Winston.
Because he seems to me like their choice as a backup, not a starter.
Well, Jameis would be a bridge. Don't forget he was the first pick in the draft.
Yes,
but
he can
but
throw
he would be a bridge
balls.
guy until theoretically your guy's ready to play. Now they signed him to a 2-year contract, didn't give him a whole lot of money,
right?
So it's very, very average money.
It's a backup quarterback contract.
Yeah, it's backup money, but that tells me they're taking a quarterback.
Right.
Okay, so whether they got to go to one to get it, and
Gotcha.
Cam Ward, by the way, is working out this afternoon. The NFL Network is picking it up at 3:30 our time. The ACC Network, if you have that, is picking it up a half hour earlier at 3. So that'll be interesting. Number one, who's there? Number two, how he does. Now, you've heard me talk about quarterback pro days before. They're scripted. The NFL people really have no say in how the script is run. The scripts are geared to show the strong points and hide the weak points. So guys can really look fabulous, or, you could have a bad day. But it's when if the Giants want to draft him or something like that, they're going to have a private workout with him.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not totally sold. And or
Greg froze, and I'm going to wait 5 seconds. He will unfreeze. 4, 3. There he is. You were
well, I
frozen.
wasn't frozen on my side.
Yeah, but on both of my computers, you were. In any case, finish. Can you refinish your thought there? He's frozen again. Is it me? He didn't freeze. Just got to change his batteries. B-Ship says. You're frozen again. Now there you are. You're moving now. All right.
I'm not dead yet.
Kay says you froze. Froze on 810 Warthog. So I think it was a temporary freeze on your internet side. But nonetheless, I wanted to ask you about the running back situation. Given the incredible amount of running backs, it's predicted 30 will be drafted in this draft, maybe even more than that. Doesn't that really mean that the Bears can wait on a running back until day 2 and even day 3?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll tell you what, I love the 2 Ohio State backs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have either one of them than Jeanty. I'm not taking anything away from Jeanty, but I just, I'd rather have the player you can get at 10. Number one, I'd rather trade down first and then do it, because even if it's a 4 or 5 pick trade down, you pick up a third. I think you need that extra pick, especially because you don't have a 4th round pick. You traded your 6th round pick to get the offensive lineman. So you want some more picks in this draft. So I think it just makes sense to try to trade down.
Absolutely. All right. So D. Stern has a great question. He asks, will Eric Bieniemy, there it is. Will Eric Bieniemy's input decide the Ashton Jeanty question? I would imagine whatever running back is being evaluated, Bieniemy's going to have some input, right?
He's going to have a report. I mean, my experience with position coaches is they write a report and they give their opinion, just like a scout gives their opinion and stuff, but it's not the be-all, end-all opinion.
Right. They will, I'm sure, lean on him just because of his experience in the league and to keep him invested, I would think, in the leadership of the team. That probably has some bearing, too. You want to include.
Right. But on draft day, I got to say, very seldom are any coaches except the head coach in the draft room. Mm-hmm. If they call you in, the room's not big. So, if you want the coach in, he's in his office. You call him down to the draft room because you might have some questions for him. Mm-hmm. And then you politely dismiss him again. So that's just the way it works in the draft. So it's a player personnel exercise, not a coaching exercise.
Gotcha. While we're on the subject of running backs, Ramsey has this question for you. Your thoughts on Bashal Tootin, who ran that incredible 40 at the combine. He's 5'11", 205 pounds. He's not too small for the NFL, is he?
No. No, he's a good running back. There's a lot of good running backs. You got to really watch the tape carefully. Like, I didn't know that about the hands, the pass catching ability on Jeanty until I did it literally back to back to back to back. All I did was queue up every target he had. Yeah. So you're seeing every route he ran, every time the ball was thrown to him, how he caught the ball from 2 different angles, from the wide angle and from the tight angle. And so you get a good feeling then for what it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not sold that unless he shows something entirely different at his pro day this week, that's exactly what somebody like Ben Johnson wants, knowing what he asks his backs to do.
Very good. All right, let's move on to another position. A lot of people think it's of need. It's that left tackle position. Could the Bears potentially take a left tackle with a number 10 pick? Now, there are candidates that should fall to number 10, but traits, arm length specifically, could be an issue. Let's talk about Will Campbell.
Campbell, early in the process, everybody had him going in the top 6 or so. It could be there. I like Campbell. I don't love him. I think he's a guard, especially because of his length. If you line him at left tackle, now this isn't just me saying this. This is absolute fact. You got the tackle with the shortest arms and the shortest wingspan in the National Football League. Do you want that with a top 10 pick?
No.
So that, to me, that's the problem. Now, one thing I noticed, and put me on the screen so I can show this a little bit, is when I'm watching, he uses his hands. He plays good, and he uses his hands pretty good. But what you don't see a lot is with his hands fully extended when he's punching, he's taking on guys and his hands are in like this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I'm going, you watch some of the other guys, they're out like this. And I'm thinking part of that is he doesn't have the leverage because he doesn't have the length that the other guys have.
Interesting. Okay.
So, again, I can say what I want. And if it was up to me, I wouldn't take him, not at that point, and not to play. If I had to have a guard, I'd take him to play guard. You can go back to Skoronski 2 years ago, the Northwestern tackle. And at this time of the year, he's a tackle. And I remember, no, he's a guard. He's got real short arms. And he got drafted by the Titans right away. They moved him to guard, and he's a damn good guard. And there's nothing to say that Campbell won't be a damn good guard the way he plays, but he doesn't have that one trait that you need to play left tackle at a really high level. And you've got 2 guys on the team right now, and Braxton Jones that has over 35-inch arms, and Amagaju has over 36-inch arms. Now that's not just a little bit longer. We're talking 3 inches and 4 inches longer. And, and they've got the prototypical body that you want for a left tackle. My personal opinion is they're going to let those 2 duke it out in camp and pick a winner. And if neither one is perfect, they'll go in that direction next year in the draft. Because I believe they're going to take an offensive lineman high. I don't believe they're going to take one at 10. One exception, but and that could be Membu, because I believe Membu will be the first offensive lineman taken, not Campbell. But Membu has always played the right side, played right tackle. When I first saw him, I think he was a right guard. He's 6'4" and 1/4. He's got 33.5-inch arms. So he doesn't have ideal height, doesn't have ideal length. 330 pounds, and he runs a 4.9. He's a freak of an athlete. That 9.7 broad jump, that's just incredible for a guy 330 pounds. And so this is a guy that I think can play right tackle in the NFL, and pretty good one. People say, why can't you move him over to the left side? Well, you might be able to. Do you want to bet on it? Only because he's never played the left side. Now, he has lined up a couple snaps a game, or, probably less than 10 times all year, where they go to an unbalanced line, and it's always a rundown. He's never in pass protection, where he's in a left-handed stance, and he's playing outside the tackle. So almost like a second tackle on an unbalanced line to the left side, and he comes out of the stance pretty good from that left side. But you've never seen him set up and pass pro in that. And, it's not impossible to do. There's guys that do it all the time. Do you want to spend a top 10 pick on that? And I just don't. If they had taken and signed 2 free agent offensive linemen, I would have thought that it'd be a lock that they're taking an offensive lineman in the first round. But they got 3. And so to me, it's like, you aren't going to take a guy with the 10th pick in the draft to sit on the bench.
That's right.
Okay. I mean, that'd be like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So can they do it? Yep. Will they do it? I tend to doubt it. Well, I mean, I'm not making the decision, but they're going to have a few weeks to work with Braxton and Amagaji before the draft. April 7th is what's that, 2 weeks from today?
Yeah.
2 weeks from today, the players can come in and coaches start seeing them. So then, even in that little bit of time that they're working with these guys, they might be able to develop some sort of feel of yay or nay on the player and then, make a decision from there.
Greg, when it comes to a guy like Membu, if the Bears have interest in seeing if he could play left tackle, could they, in their pro day, give him some drills to run that can help give them clues whether his footwork or whatever those mechanics are suitable for the left tackle position?
Oh, yeah, you could do that at the pro. They already had the pro day. Whether he did or not, I don't know.
All right.
But you would do it, to me, you'd do it more in a private workout.
Mm-hmm.
When they took Darnell Wright, Poles and Simo went down there and worked them out for a couple hours, did a whole bunch of stuff with them. You could do the same type of thing and then do a lot of stuff working with him out on the field from that left side just to get a feel. First of all, how quickly does he pick up having to change his configuration and not lose anything? Does it come real natural for him?
Outstanding. All right. I am collecting questions. I just want to let D. Starren, Mr. Shorty, B-Shep23, A10 Warthog, Brenton, and a couple of others that have got your questions shared. But I want to get on to the next player and ask Greg about the possibility of Tyler Warren going at number 10, because I've been playing with that idea in my mind a little bit. And when I look, I don't study the tape like you do, Greg, but when I look at highlights, which you'll see some here, man, oh man, is this guy intriguing.
Leading player. I think that could be one player that they stay for. Okay. And the reason being, now, qualify that. He hasn't run yet either. He runs Friday. Okay. And so how he does running downhill at Penn State, because that is a downhill surface, not by much, but it probably drops off. I've been to Penn State enough times to know that you look at it, it drops off about 4 inches. Excuse me. And he, so guys generally time good. I don't know if that 4 inches makes a difference one way or the other, but it can make some sort of difference. But he's going to, if he runs in the 4.5s and he plays like he could run in the 4.5s, that might be a guy that they want. And I'll tell you why. The more I watch, because I've watched a ton, is that he can really play. If you look at the way he played at Penn State, and then you watch the way the tight end was used in Detroit, he could be a combo move tight end wide receiver. Now, have you noticed they haven't signed another big wide receiver? They've signed some little guys to play inside.
Right.
That guy could be your big wide receiver / move tight end, and Cole Kmet is more your Y. Or you could even have Cole as a move tight end, and that guy's a wideout. And he's 6'5" and change. He was a quarterback. He's real with the ball in his hands running. He's pretty darn good. Catches the ball really well. Has good route running ability. Gets separation at the college level. Large catch radius. He can climb the ladder, go up and get it. There's not much you can't do. He's actually a pretty good blocker too. Now he needs some work on technique. you wouldn't want him lining up in tight. He can do it. There's a willingness. And to me, if there's a willingness, you can teach him how to become a really good blocker, because the first thing you got to have is that willingness to do it. He has that. And there's some blocks you see him in where he knocks the dog shit out of people. So he's and it's usually that's, on the move and it's in the open field. But I think he could cover two positions if in fact they took him. So I'm looking at it, I go, that could be a guy they say, you know what, we're taking him. And I'm guessing. I'm just totally guessing. But I think he's a really intriguing player. Now, if he runs 4.65, 4.68, that could change the equation a little bit, because he might not have the speed that he's really looking for.
Mm-hmm. Does the fact that he can throw the ball, how much does that factor into making
you ever
him
watch him throw the ball?
No, I haven't.
It isn't very good.
Forget that. Huh?
But he does get back there and then run the ball from that position.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a pretty good runner. Okay. And they use him on the goal line and stuff, and leaping over the pile, and he's got some jump skills. He's a very athletic guy. But again, no testing at the combine, so he'll be doing it all Friday at Penn State. And I will get that. Well, his stuff will probably be on X right away. But I get it. Like, I got all but last week's workouts, but I didn't get Michigan's yet. I got them. A guy sent them to me. I got them yesterday, but he didn't have Michigan yet. So he probably got Michigan today. And, I'm not going to bother him today. I'll just wait till next Monday. And the pro days, except for one school, are done after this week. So, I'll get one more batch of those pro days in. And then I got, the workouts for everybody in the country, unless they didn't work out. Now there's guys like, the linebacker at Georgia, he's not working out till the 17th or 18th because he's coming off an injury. Williams didn't run as good as he thought he was going to run, so he's going to work out that same day at Georgia. He thinks his ankle, he's not back 100% from the ankle injury. He thinks he ran 4.75. He thinks he can run the 4.6s. We'll find out. Maybe he's just a 4.7 is what he is. And there's other guys that haven't been able to work out. There's one guy, I didn't give you, and I wanted to bring him up is Mason Graham.
Yeah. Okay. The defensive tackle from Michigan.
Right.
A lot of people love him.
There's one thing that bugs me. He refuses to do any timing and stuff. And move the 6, Daniel Jeremiah. I heard him say it last week. He goes, he's one of those guys. And then he used the safety from Notre Dame as an example, who worked out poorly. And so he dropped, people thought he was a top 10. And then the Colts got him in the mid-teens, or not the Colts, the Ravens got him in the mid-teens. And, he's been a Pro Bowl safety ever since, even though he's a 4.7 guy. And he thinks that's going to be the same thing with Mason. But Mason, the only thing he's done was bench press, and he's done positional drills. He did them at their pro day on Friday. Don't have a 40 on him. Don't have a 10. Don't have a 3 cone. Don't have a vertical jump. Where the big guy, Grant, like, he had a vertical jump, 332 pounds of 31 inches. That's incredible for a guy that big. And he ran a 5.07. So what is – now Mason was 9 pounds heavier than he was at the combine. Combine, I think he was 296, 297. He was 306 at the pro day, which is more in tune with the weight he played at this year. But why wouldn't he work out? And that's going to be a question that everybody's going to have in their front office when they're going over this, is what's he trying to hide? Because a lot of times it's those who don't can't. And
so they're hiding
is he really like a 5'2" guy or something?
Oh wow.
So I mean I gotta guess, because we don't have it. There's no verified information other than the bench. He did the bench at the combine, did 24, where Grant at the combine did 22, came back and lifted Friday and did 27.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got a couple of more defensive players to do, but before that, I'd like to bridge the conversation because we've been talking a lot about pro days, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about preparing for the pro day. So you sit down with your general manager, Ryan Poles, you're the director of scouting, and is it his responsibility to tell you how we're going to handle this pro day, or is you, as director of scouting and your scouts, do you present the plan to Ryan Poles? This is what we're going to ask him to do. This is what time, and so forth. How do those mechanics work?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I did all that. The guys went to every guy went to the pro days, as many pro days as he could within his area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sometimes there's more than one and you can't get to them. And that's why they have what they call APT. And it's so you can get the times if you can't send a guy to that, particular workout, because you got, there's some days when you got 6 and 7 pro days going on at the same time. And you always get the tape of it. The schools send the tape, so you get the tape of the entire workout for each player, and the tape guys usually break it down. So it's like at the combine. So it's like you get the full tape of player A, then you get the full tape of player B, instead of having to go through the whole 2 to 3 hours of tape for the entire pro day. You can break it down by the player. And so you have all that. I would always go to players that we had an interest in, unless we were trying to hide that interest. And in which case I wouldn't go. We might send a coach or the area scout, maybe do a private workout, because private workouts, you can try to have everybody keep those quiet. Sometimes they get out, sometimes they don't. If you go to the agent and tell them I don't want it out, then the agent's not going to, let the insiders know about it. So, but it's just another piece to the puzzle. And, if a guy works out at the combine and he has a good workout from the measurable point of view, he runs good, jumps good, and all that shit, then he doesn't have to do that at the pro day. All he has to do at the pro day is the positional drills. And he's going to do more than what they did at the combine as far as positional drills. Generally speaking, at most schools, you get about 20 minutes per position to work out the guys. But then when you're done with your position, the coaches can take a guy off to the side and work with them too. It's just not taped because they want to get it done within a certain time frame. So they only allow that 20 minutes for each position. And then if you don't have enough, you come back and you do a private workout, because the private workout, you can get them in the classroom and stuff. And depending on the position, depending on the player, but it just solidifies or helps to solidify the grade that you have. Okay, let's say Mason, and again, I'm just guessing here because he hasn't done anything. His tape is outstanding, but he's got short arms. He's only got 32-inch arms. And if you hadn't guessed, I'm big on measurements. And then we don't have any measurable times on him for any of the drills. So it's like, are we going to risk taking him or just trust the film? And that's a decision that the general manager has to make. Or, you go in, you do a private workout, and you see enough in the private workout to not have to worry about having a time.
Greg, I am a little bit at a loss for words because Mr. Shorty has just donated $100 to the Bar Room. Hoping to see Greg and Aldo join us on Bears Country Productions again soon, one Saturday morning, for another episode of Coffee with Greg. I want Greg to slay my T formation coffee. What are you drinking right now? Just water? That's all.
I drink a ton of water.
No more vodka in that water, huh?
Nope.
Mr. Shorty, that is incredibly generous of
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so thank you very much. And whenever you need Greg on BCP, you let me know, and I'll make it happen for you and the good folks over at BCP, Bears Country Productions, which
By
I hope.
the way, before I forget, I sent Dane a DM yesterday.
Dane Brugler?
And I said, you know, the Beast is coming out the 9th. Can you do the 14th? And if you can't do the 14th, we can do it any time at your convenience and then just, pre-record. Haven't heard back from him yet. But I know he's like, he's putting in 24-hour days right now, getting that thing ready.
Right. It really is the most extensive draft guide available. You may not agree with all of the assessments that he puts in there, but he does the work unlike anyone else. Now, Lance Zerline, who you had on as a guest 2 weeks ago, he does a lot of work too, and he does it. He does it like when you did your Pro Football Weekly scouting reports. He does all that stuff, a lot of it before the combine, just like you did, and that's unbelievable because the combine, you pick up a lot of information.
Right. Well, we had a deadline at PFW because they stopped doing the book like they did with Nolan. So they'd have an early magazine and then that book.
Mm-hmm.
And the deadline was like February 10th or something like that. And so you had to have everything done by then. And I used to fight that with Hub all the time. It's like, wait a minute, things change when we get verified measurables.
Right.
So, but you can't fight City Hall. So I just, what we did though, I got a concession out of them one year, but it didn't sell as good as we did a second guide.
Oh, okay.
Like an update guide.
Right.
It didn't sell as good.
Yeah, unfortunately, the best way to do it, of course, is electronically because then you can make edits up until the day of the draft, But, I know that Hub comes from the publishing world, and so that was kind of ingrained in him. And frankly, I loved the Pro Football Weekly publication because I could take it with me everywhere. The bathroom, the bar. I go out to have lunch. I'd be eating at McDonald's, reading your work on Pro Football Weekly. It was a lot of fun. All right, let's move on now to the defense. And just one last time, thank you, Mr. Shorty. Please follow Bears Country Productions on their YouTube channel. They do great work. I was on there recently. Go back, and if you want more of me, go back and listen to the episode I was on 2 weeks ago. Anyway, let us go to James Pierce, a guy who a lot of Bears fans are in love with. What is your level of love for James Pierce, the defensive end?
Well, let's start with the negative, and not because it's important.
Sure.
There's character concerns. Nobody knows what the damn character concerns are. I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, interesting.
The one guy said, well, he's like a wild horse that refuses to get broke. Yeah, well, okay. Is that a problem? He's a defensive lineman.
Right.
He got pulled over, didn't have a license. Got into a little pissing match, I guess, with the cop. He got arrested originally. Charges were dropped. You want to call that a character flaw? I mean, that's he was 19 at the time, I think. That's a 19-year-old being an asshole. So I if there's anything else, I don't know. There's a couple things I've heard. I'm not going to mention those over the air only because it's not verified. It's not fair.
Right.
So, to me, it's you got to have give and take with defensive linemen. Okay, just the value of the position and the personality of the people that play that position. They're not necessarily nice people. Mm-hmm. I keep saying the definition of a defensive lineman is a thug, and his job is to win 60 5-second street fights.
Mhm.
And so you don't want a nice guy.
Yeah, right.
You know, we used to say they got a little crap in their neck. Okay, we took Tank. Tank had, if the, this guy probably doesn't have half the issues that the Tank had. No, we took Tank in the second round, not the first round. For the most part, Tank was all right, but he couldn't get away from the bad people. And he goes downtown with the bad guy, and the bad guy gets his ass killed.
Oh my God.
So, that caused some problems. But Tank as a person, he was really a nice guy. Okay, and I don't think he's gotten any trouble since he's been out of the league. Really rough upbringing. And so that's what you got to find out about this guy. What was his upbringing? And was he raised in a one-parent home or a two-parent home? Where did he go to high school? You do all that stuff and you find out, and then you make a decision. Okay, here's the rough edges. We can live with it. And we can live with it. One of the reasons we can live with it, okay, we can use Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter his examples were probably worse than Pierce, because everybody knew exactly what happened with the Jalen Carter, the one big instance. But there was instances where, he was totally out of shape at the pro day and a couple other things. But you put him in a locker room with some good pros in there, and they come around. And now, you've added some good veterans to this locker room. Jared on the defensive side, Thuney on the offensive side. So I don't know if Sweat was much of a leader, but he's an example guy. He's a hard worker. Billings is a leader. So now you got some better people in the room. And so you can say, I can do it. So again, that's a decision that Ryan and the head coach got to make. But when you look at the talent, that son-of-a-bitch is really good. I mean, the more I watch, and I watched a lot, only weigh 245. He can get up to 255, 260 in a heartbeat, and it's not going to affect the thing he does, because he ran that 4.47. He is so explosive. He's real strong through the hips. There was one game I looked at where he's rushing from the right side, so he's going against the left tackle. And he did to that left tackle what Green from Marshall did to Josh Connerly from Oregon at the Senior Bowl. But Connerly didn't have his feet set right, and that's why that happened. But this guy, Pierce, did this in a game to a guy and just totally obliterated him. So he can do everything that you want. He's so damn fast. He's got length. That's another guy. And unless you think that everybody else has got issues on him too, so I can go down 3 or 4 spots and still get him. But if you're afraid somebody else will take him, then you take him. Again, called by Ryan Poles. I really like the player, and the more I watch, the more I like, because of the talent he has. He can be a perennial double-digit sack guy in this league.
A lot of concerns in the chat room about his ability to stop the run. What have you seen?
Yeah, he can stop the run.
Yeah.
No, yeah. He can set the edge and stand people up. So sometimes you don't see it down after down after down.
Mm-hmm.
When I get guys like that, I want to see them do it. Mm-hmm. If they can do it, then now it's up to the coach and stuff to get them to do it every down. And that's part of finding out what's the character flaw that he doesn't do it every down or whatever. So you go through it, but you want to find out if he can do it. He can do it. There's no question he can do it.
Some people, Samuel has said that it appears that he could be an introvert. For instance, he doesn't celebrate his sacks or anything like that. He's probably just kind of one of those guys that.
I'm not going to guess. I don't know the guy. I only know what a couple people have told me. And one thing isn't verified, so I'm not going to bring it up. And that might not be a big issue anyway. So as far as I know, there's no criminality other than that traffic charge he ended up getting arrested for, but charges are dropped like within 10 days to 2 weeks or something. So, I mean, it doesn't even exist anymore. It'll be interesting to see if he's there, if they pull the trigger.
Is outside of Abdul Carter, is he your favorite edge rusher in this draft?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of good ones, but he's got special to him. Okay. So, and that's, I mean, he can be a perennial double-digit sack guy in this league. And brings up one point, too, I wanted to, because a listener brought it up about Danielle Hunter last week, and he said, well, he only had 4.5 sacks, and look what he's done in the league. And he's right. I looked it up. He had 3 1 year, 1.5 the next year. So 4.5 for his career. Where did Danielle Hunter go? Late in the 3rd round,
That's
like the
difference.
88th or 89th pick. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're drafting traits, not drafting a guy with traits with the 10th pick in the draft.
Yeah, that is the big difference. He was a 3rd round pick. Absolutely. All right, let's
And
get
a late
to
3rd round pick. Because like I said, it was 88 or 89.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our last guy on the list of guys you told me that could be available at 10. And so you're offering evaluations, and that's Mel Williams out of Georgia.
Yeah, he would probably be last. Going into the season, people thought he might be the best defensive player in the country. Played with an ankle sprain most of the year. They had their pro day a week and a half ago. He ran like 4.74, 4.75, something like that. The other stuff was good, not as fast as they thought. They thought he might be a 1/10 of a second faster. He plays faster. He's going to run again on April 18th. So we'll find out. He's an interesting guy. He's got length. He's more prototypical in that he's 265, 267. He's 6'5", got long arms. He's strong. He can play the run. He can rush the passer. He's got a complete game. And, at Georgia, they got so many damn good athletes. Nobody ever plays the whole game. They always rotate. And so their numbers aren't necessarily as good as you'd expect. Only question is, does he have that speed that you want for that position to take that high? But he's a quality player. So right now I'm thinking he's more of a trade down guy than a guy that you'd take at 10. But hell, we went like 6 names, 7 names, and are only picking 10th. I mean, so somebody's going to be there. And then, you got a couple quarterbacks, and you got Hunter and some of these other guys. So, but if the point I'm trying to make is you talk about these guys, there's things to like about all of them. There's some negatives about all of them, but aren't they all the same?
Yeah.
It's really, is there a huge difference? Who would I rather have? Would I rather have the other defensive tackle at Michigan, Big Kenneth Grant, who I think is going to be great, at 16, or Warren at 10 that I don't have information on? I think I'd rather have Grant at 16.
Yeah. It's interesting because
not that I'm taking anything away from Mason. From Mason, it's just like, there's unanswered questions.
Yeah, it is interesting though, Greg, because we often hear that it's the tape. But you're saying that there are some exceptions to the tape, because in that final part of the analysis process, if you're not getting the data in, you'd feel more comfortable looking at the tape to make the decision over who you choose. Is that right?
I mean, but part of it too is it's like not everything is ideal. His play's ideal. His play's real good. got 32-inch arms. We don't have a time. We don't have any jumps. We don't have any shuttles. We got the bench press is 24, which is, it's not outstanding. It's good, not outstanding, which means pretty much he's a 400-pound bencher. So a question this is the question I've always had. And when we go into meetings, when somebody is there to do it, I'm going to work out at my pro day. And then when he gets to his pro day, he just does position drills. And the question we always have is, what are you hiding?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Absolutely. All right, Greg, it is time to get to some of these questions that I've been starting to put stars on since 1047. So Brian Hanna asked, we got to that. He wanted you to unblock him. Russell Webster wants to know about Donovan.
Izuruku?
That's him.
I think
From
that's
Boston
I like it.
College.
He's a 20 to 30 guy. Okay, good player. He's not as explosive as Pierce. Pierce has got some nastiness to him. This guy's a good football player. And you could argue and say, I'll take him at 18. I mean, he had 16 and a half sacks. Good hand use, long arms, runs pretty good. He ran in the 4.6s. He'll get bigger. Went against really good people and had production. By the way, I wanted to bring this up too. I saw something that said Will Campbell didn't give up any sacks in the SEC competition. Well, I've seen in the last couple of days at least 2.
Yeah, me too.
And one was Jihad Campbell went right through him.
Yeah, and
he's a linebacker, not an edge.
I do wish that there was an official service that offered you accurate stats on things like that, because you'll read something at PFF and then over at Draft Network and they're all different. It's all in the eye of the beholder. There's nothing official coming out from either the NCAA or the NFL.
I saw the other day, and it was on X, and it was from somebody local, one of the local things or podcasts, and they said he never gave up a sack in the SEC competition. He's got to be pretty good. I'm going, I've seen at least 2 this year.
Yeah.
So don't tell me he hasn't given up any.
Yeah. Outstanding. All right, let us move on to this question. Bshep23 says, I would not be upset if the Bears drafted the best middle linebacker in the draft, best interior linebacker in this draft. What are your thoughts? You said last week that the Bears might be looking for more speed at the linebacker position. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I can't say the one guy I really liked, and then I came off was Jihad Campbell from Alabama, because I think he can also play some edge. But he had, right after the combine, he had labrum surgery.
And you think that's going to hurt his draft value?
Again, he's going to have to go to the redos, which won't be for about another 3 weeks or so. And then, find out how much he's progressed since he had the surgery. The only reason I knew this, the Alabama Pro Day was on last week, and he's walking around with his arm in a sling. And then I read it too. He had surgery right after the combine. So it's Carter had the same surgery, but Carter had it 2 months before.
Right.
Or 6 weeks before. It's a 4 to 6 month injury, generally speaking. So, and talking averages. So he has it, let's just say March 20th. So that's April, May, June, July. It means 4 months is right at the beginning of camp. Okay, maybe he's ready. Maybe he's not. And do you want to spend number 10 on a guy like that? The guy's a good player. Now, I had one guy tell me, one decision maker tell me that the guy they have rated as the highest linebacker is the kid from UCLA, Schlesinger or whatever his name is.
Carson Schlesinger, yeah.
Yeah. Who, I did for the age, he's a good football player. I didn't have him that high.
Yeah.
But, so when I heard that, I thought I better go back and look at some more.
Yeah, he seems to be a name that is being put out there more and more over the last 6 weeks or so. Brenton wants to know, at what round would you possibly address the strong side linebacker position? Is that
they don't play a strong side linebacker here. They play a Mike and a Will. And Sanborn, I'll tell you one reason, the only reason Sanborn's not here, he can't run. And they want more speed. And so they let him go. They said, see what you can find elsewhere. And he, did you see the deal he got? He got $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So that tells you right there now, thanks, but no thanks.
That's really weird for a guy who's made so many plays on tape because of great instinct that he didn't sign.
I don't disagree with you on that, but we'll go to Parcells' rule. When you draft exceptions, you have a team full of exceptions, and so they want more speed at that position.
Yeah, indeed. A10 Warthog is concerned about the safety spot. A lot of people are too, with 4 safeties on the roster who are playing on the final year of their contract. How do you address that?
I don't worry about the final year of the contract because you just, if you want to re-up, you re-up them. Mm-hmm. It's what's Brisker's condition. Reportedly, he's good to go. What does this staff feel about the safety position? Well, they haven't signed anybody in free agency, so that tells you something right there. And there's some decent safeties in the draft. Could they go that route? Not a 10, but you trade down a little bit, and there's that kid from South Carolina who's pretty good. And then you go down a little bit further, there's Starks from Georgia, who is a pure free safety, and he doesn't test as good as the kid from South Carolina, but he is a ball hawk and a real good cover guy. So yeah, there's guys there, but you're not going to take him at 10. And then there's other guys you can get throughout the draft. Somebody last week asked about the kid from Oklahoma. He's a good football player, but he's a midget. I should use that word. Am I being politically incorrect here?
Who cares?
He's 5'10", and he's got 28.5-inch arms. So, he can't even wiggle his piggly when he goes to take a pee. His arms are so damn short. So, again, I grew up favoring measurements. You had to get these measurements for a reason. And when you got a short guy with short arms, and you got to go against a 6'5" tight end, you're at a huge disadvantage. Mm-hmm. But the guy was he's a big hitter. He's a hell of a college football player at Oklahoma. But where do you get him? You say you're not going to draft him? No, you don't. But you don't take him where he should go because he's lacking some measurables. So, mid-round pick for me.
Mark Moser had a thought about Membu that he quits on plays before the whistle. I don't understand why the Bears would pick a tight tackle when they have one. I'm sure he meant right tackle when they have one. So,
it's Kenny. I think he would have, if they had not signed 3 guys, I would have taken him or Booker in a heartbeat to play one of the guard positions. Mm-hmm. Booker's always played on the left side. Membo's always played on the right side. If you didn't have Jackson, you could pencil him in at your right guard and you're all set. I think he's going to be a hell of a pro. I really do.
Lee Bruin wants your thoughts on Miles Frazier, the offensive lineman, and Kennard, the thin speed edge rusher.
Will Frazier, I haven't done.
I think it's Miles Frazier. That's that kid from LSU.
is that his name, Miles Frazier? Or is
I'm
it,
pretty sure it's
there's
Miles Frazier.
the right tackle at LSU is a pretty good player, and he can play right tackle or guard. He's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, day 3 guy.
Yeah.
What was the other name on there?
Yeah, Kennard, that speed
Kennard
rusher.
can
Yeah.
rush the passer, can't play the run worth the damn.
Yeah, he's a feather out there.
I mean, it's like he doesn't even try to play the run.
He doesn't want to get hurt.
But he can rush the passer.
Yeah, he does.
It's like you watch the tape and you go, come on, make one play.
Yeah.
Make one play. You know, and it's like he doesn't even play hard against the run. So to me, that's like, you know, he's going to be a day 3 guy because he's a one-trick pony right now. He probably got it in him to do it.
Yep.
But he didn't do it there.
I'll tell Lee if he wants a comprehensive look at Miles Frazier. Danny Shimon is kind of high on him, and you can find Danny's draft report on him at Shimon Draft Scout on his YouTube channel. Danny, of course, was a student of Greg Gabriel years ago, and so you can't get any better assessment on a player.
I got a report on him somewhere that I did probably in the middle of the fall for, you know, one of the agents, because I got like 400 reports on this draft buried in my computer.
We'll pull that baby out for next week. We'll talk further about him. Let's see. What is Anthony just wants to know, out of the players that we've talked about today, which of those guys would you take at 10?
I know what my answer is.
Yeah, that's
Trade.
Ryan Post's problem. Oh, trade down, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not. Put a gun to my head, and I'm taking Warren or Pierce. Assuming Warren runs as good as I think he's going to run. If he doesn't run as good as I think he's going to run, then that changes the equation. After that, I don't know. I'm trying to trade down, and even if those 2 guys are there, I might still try to trade down. Because I think when you look at the package and the strength of this draft, when you get into the 2nd and 3rd round, if you get another pick, your team's better off.
Okay. All right. What do you think about Miles? Oh, I think we talked about Miles. No, Mike Green from the Edge from Marshall. We didn't talk
He's
about
got some character issues.
Okay.
And his are more severe than, as far as I know, than Pierce.
All right. So are you taking him off your board?
I don't know if he's off the board. You got to do the work. But he's also got 32-inch arms. So it's, if people go, so what? Well, you know, when you're brought up the way I do, it's important because there are some shorter arm guys that have been pretty good pass rushers. So you can't say there aren't. But the majority of the real good pass rushers have length. And this goes way back. I mean, we went back into when we did this study, we went back into the 90s and late 80s. And the common denominator wasn't speed, it was length. Always
length. Okay, Tropic.
Michael Strahan was the leading sacker in a season, 22 and a half sacks, right? He had 141 in his career. Defensive end, he ran a 4.97.
Ooh.
Okay, but he had 34 and 3/4-inch arms.
Wow. I didn't know they were that long. Jeez. It's almost as long as the gap between his front two
teeth. We took him in the 2nd round.
2nd round. What a value. Tropic wants to know about the offensive lineman from Arizona. It's Jonas Savaiania.
However you say that name, I like him.
Yeah,
another guy that's probably going to be a guard because he's not quite 6'4". Got enough length, moves his feet pretty good. I like him.
Yeah.
And I think he's a day 2 guy, probably more 3rd round than 2nd round, but it wouldn't shock me if he went 2nd round.
Interesting. All right. Keep an eye on Jonah. Creighton wants, I already asked that one. Mr. Inglewood is asking you to compare Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon, those 2 defensive tackles.
Different types of players because Grant is so much bigger.
Mhm.
Kenneth Grant's 300. Kenneth Grant would come in here. He'd be a one technique nose tackle. Very athletic, though. I think it's all in front of him. You know, as one guy said, I think it was Lance said that when he talked to people in Michigan, they said he hasn't figured out how good he can be yet. You know, that he's still growing as a player. But the natural talent between strength, athleticism, explosiveness is all there. Semi-local is from Maryville. Harmon, I like better on Michigan State tape than Oregon State. Oregon, rather, not Oregon State. Good player. Can play either defensive tackle position. He's a good player. It would be a good discussion. Let's say you trade down and they're both there in the like 15, 16 area, and both of them are there, and you want to take one. It's a really good discussion to have. Now, you're having that discussion before the draft, because then then the way you line them up is how you take them.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, the pass rush skills of Harmon are probably a little better, but at the same time, in 2 years, Grant could be a Pro Bowl type player. You watch some of the plays he makes, and he's a freaking monster. He's like, you know, just one of those big elephants you put in the middle that you aren't going to move, and just really helps your defense.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the guy from Oregon, he's a hell of a player too. And so is the guy from, and he's coming in for a visit, the guy from Ole Miss, that tackle.
Oh, what's his name again? I think I got it here. Oh, wrong one. In any case, they get 30 visits, correct? But
yeah, and we know of two rumors and two officials that are, and the officials are Josh Connerly from Oregon and Jeanty.
Gotcha.
And then the unofficials are the Ole Miss tackle, defensive tackle, and Warren, the tight end.
Were you referring to Walter Nolan?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Samo says the Bears offensive line coach Dan Rocher was one of 6 offensive line coaches in attendance of William and Mary's offensive tackle pro day, Charles Grant. What do you, Greg, think of Mr. Charles Grant?
You know, he's like Braxton when Braxton was coming out. He's athletic. He's really athletic. I like Braxton better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this guy's a good player. Is he going to come in and start, beat out those 2 guys? No. He'd be a backup, and he'd be a good one. And he could probably play inside too. But I don't see him being now he could. I mean, if he takes to coaching, and because there's some, you know, you see some stuff on tape and some of it is just coaching what he's being taught.
Mm-hmm.
That you just say he should be able to do this better and that better. But his tape is good. It's not outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, an interesting guy for one of those 2s is the Connerly kid, if he's still there, from Oregon, because, you know, he's got enough length to be a left tackle, or swing guy, and he's built like a guard. So, you know, you got really a swing backup as a rookie that you're not using a first round pick on. Now, some people think he may go in the first. I got him as a second myself.
What do you think about the tackle from LSU, Irsay?
I'm not I think he's we talked about him. He's
Oh,
the
he's
stiff guy. No, I don't think he bends very well. He's a pure right tackle. That's all he can play. He tested better than he plays, in my opinion. So when I saw him test that well, I do got to give him the benefit of the doubt and go back and look at more tape.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first saw him, there's things I don't like when I do offensive linemen, and one is if they can't bend their knees.
All right.
Okay, and when in straight-legged players, I just kill them, and he was a straight-legged player.
Emory Jones is his first name, from LSU. What about the kid from Boston College, Ozzie Trapillo?
He didn't do a whole lot for me from when I did him on tape, and that wasn't that long ago.
Interesting. And Wyatt Millum from West Virginia. He had
Really good player, another short arm guy that's going to have to move inside. His arms are shorter than Campbell's.
Yeah, and he had a tough Senior Bowl week from the reports that I read.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. His tape at West Virginia is pretty good, and he's a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got like 32.25-inch arms.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to play guard. He's not going to play tackle.
Yeah. TJ Johnson is wondering if you've seen any of Alabama A&M's offensive tackle Carson Vinson.
No.
Carson Vinson, we'll do some work on him, TJ, and report back in a week or two.
Write it down.
Absolutely. Carson Vinson, Vinson. I know we got a lot of draft nicks in the chat. Maybe they can provide a one-liner on him. Swifty says that Millum was really good at tackle, but he struggled at guard at the Senior Bowl, so he might take some time to adjust to the inside.
Oh, yeah, and I agree with that because he played outside his whole career at West Virginia, and he's pretty good. So going inside, it's a little different look, but he should be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have the lower body strength and bulk? Because you're playing against bigger people on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've got to be able to. That's why I don't think Braxton Jones is a guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way he's built.
Yeah.
So and you can say that. That's why I think Josh Connerly is a guard. By the way, he's got that shorter, stockier look to him instead of that real long, tall, long, high cut type of guy like Braxton is.
I've been
Swifty
saying
and I got a show on Friday, by the way. So.
Yes, all right. Swifty Sports Network on YouTube. I'm sure every one of our followers is following Swift Sports Network because he's got twice the amount of followers than we do here at the Barroom. So congratulations to Swifty, and Greg, as he said, will be there on Friday. Mr. Shorty, part of the reason he gave $100 to the Barroom is because he wanted to get this silly question, and that is, how about the Bears load up on running backs like Henderson and Scatterboo and run Mr. Shorty's modern-day version of the T formation with Ben Johnson?
I like Henderson. I'm not as big a Scatterboo fan as a lot of people. The guy is a competitor and he's tough. I got to see if he ran yet.
I don't think he has.
Well, they're the Big Eight, so he should have run last week. I got to look on the unless he didn't run at the Big Eight Pro Day, because the Big Eight Pro Day was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week down at the Star in Texas. So, I think he's a 4.65 guy. Tough guy. I think he's a backup in our league that you like. You're glad you have him on your team. He can get you some tough yards. But at our level, I don't think he's anybody that's going to scare you.
Yeah, he's had at least a couple of concussions in his college football career. He seems to be like a guy who could have issues in the NFL because he lowers his head so often on runs. Does that concern you at all, Greg, when you evaluate?
Well, that's the doctors do that. I mean, I had 6 that I know of, and I'm a nut. So I mean, it's a.
Mr. Shorty says with that you're not shitting on his T formation idea, so he may be on to something. I think what he's on to is your $100, Mr.
No.
Shorty.
This is 2000. This is 2025 NFL football, and it's called throw the ball.
Exactly.
Transformation. So they aren't going back to the wing tee and stuff
No.
like that.
It is interesting, though, Greg, that there does seem to be a somewhat of a shift towards running the ball, not only because of what Saquon did for the Philadelphia Eagles, but because of all these shell defenses. And you got all these guys back in the defensive backfield, and it's basically allowing a running back to get to past the line of scrimmage untouched if you've got a decent offensive line. So, and this draft with all these running backs is going to make for an interesting NFL season. We might see some rushing records challenged at the very least.
My stepdaughter keeps sending me a text.
It could be breaking news.
No, I just got to see what she wants here.
Absolutely. By the way, I'll show people my T-shirt. If anybody can guess what TEU stands for, put it in the chat.
TEU?
Yeah, do you know what this means?
Stand for? No.
Let me see if anybody in the chat got it. It is Tight End University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was always my favorite position to play when I played sandlot football, the tight end position, because I love the block.
Tight end U was partially started by Greg Olson.
Ah, that's right. He's one of the co-founders.
And speaking of that, did you see there's some clips from a pass rush school last week down in Florida, and the Bears sent 4 guys to it, and they all went. There were Sweat, Booker, Jarrett, and Gervon Dexter.
Oh, that's great. What happens during the offseason with these guys? Is Ben Johnson getting any look at these guys move at all, or is he
Only
just
on tape?
Only on tape. So does he stop and talk to guys in the weight room? Are you allowed to do that under the CBA?
Yeah. I mean, that you can't. The only supervision they can have in the weight room, they don't have to work out here. They can work out wherever they want right now. If they want to come into Hallis to work out, they can. You can go down and talk to them. The only person who can supervise them is the weight coach.
Ah, okay. And the Bears have a new one this year.
No, actually, he's the assistant.
Oh, okay. He got the promotion.
Yes.
Gotcha. Did you read about the Chicago Bears have hired another executive vice president to the organization? I think they lead the league in EVPs and senior vice presidents.
I think I saw something earlier today, but I don't know. I didn't even look at it.
Yeah, let me see if I can call it up quickly. It is a woman who is going to run some type of the financial aspects of the team. And so this hire makes me want to think that potentially they are going to release some news regarding the stadium soon. I'm going to put up her picture and the article from the Bears website here. It is Chicago Bears hire Laura Anderson as Senior Vice President of Administration and CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
Chief Financial Officer. The one, Karen Murphy was CFO.
Ooh, is she gone?
I don't know. I wonder if she just got a different title now.
Interesting. I think her name is not mentioned in the
Karen
article.
has been there. Karen came there from Disney shortly before we got there in 2001.
Interesting. So hopefully there's some good news ahead regarding the stadium. I'd like to know one way or another, where they're going to go. At this point, if they do elect to go to Arlington Heights, I may not be able to walk if I'm still alive to go to the stadium about a mile down the road. So we'll see.
How far? No, how far? That's really no more than like 2 miles over, isn't it?
Yeah, from my house, it's about 2.5 miles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because I'm right on the northwest edge, I'm right on the border of Lake Zurich. I'm in Arlington Heights, and then I throw a rock this way, I hit Lake Zurich. Throw a rock that way, I hit Palatine. Throw a rock this way, I hit Buffalo Grove. So I'm right in the tip there.
But that's farther west than you are.
The stadium is?
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah,
No.
because the stadium's not, isn't Arlington Park by 53 and Lake Cook?
It's actually before you hit Lake Cook. I'm at Lake Cook in 53. And the stadium, the old Arlington Park racetrack, is like on Palatine in 53. So it's a couple of miles before you get to Lake Cook.
Okay.
Samo is letting us know that Karen Murphy was named Executive Vice President of Stadium Development and Chief Operating Officer on March 5th, per the Bears site. Samo should be a reporter, man.
She was the CFO. That's why.
Brandon Lawson, Greg and Aldo, you are the GOATs. Miss catching you guys live. Have a great day. Brandon is doing some sensational work in his community. We're going to have him on as a guest on Bare Their Souls, and we'll learn more from Brandon. All right, Greg, that's going to do it. What do you want to talk about next week? What happens next week? All the pro days are done?
Let's go to some trade down guys.
Yes. Love that.
And then, we'll do that. And then they'll talk about some of the pro days this week. Boise's working out. Penn State's working out. There's a bunch. And this is the last big week, unless guys are doing some redos. This is the last week because next week is the owner. In fact, they were smart. You always had the owners' meetings like we're usually this week. And then general managers couldn't go to some of these pro days.
That didn't make sense.
So they pushed the meetings back a week. And now the pro days are over this week.
That's the way it should be done. Do you think there will ever be a time where the draft will be moved and basically flip-flop with free agency? Draft
No,
first?
I don't think so. I mean, could it? Yeah, I like the idea of free agency first.
Why?
Get your veteran in and then fill in with your rookies, and then the way the off-season program starts, then the veterans that you sign, you can bring in and work right away when you're free, because the rookies can't start working until May 15th.
Shorty's giving me a compliment. How nice of you, Mr. Shorty. Lee Bruin says new rule changes by Green Bay and Lions, total BS. I'm assuming
they're just proposals. They're not.
Yeah.
They got to get voted on.
Yeah.
Getting voted on and getting a positive vote for some of that stuff, like Green Bay's proposal on the tush push, I don't think that gets voted through. The seating that Detroit, that's kind of interesting when you really look at it, because you could have a team with a 9-8 record be a number one, not a number one seed, but a home seed, top seed because they won their division, and a team that only lost 4 games has got to go on the road to play a wild card game. And obviously the team with, 4 losses is the better team.
Yeah.
But then the question is, then where's the impetus to win your division?
Right. Could you see a draft lotto like the NBA does, the teams with the worst records or that don't make the playoffs go into a lotto so that we don't have the suspicion of tanking as seriously as some people
think? I wouldn't be against it. I don't know if I'd want every team that's not in the playoffs in it. Maybe a lottery with the 8 worst or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there could still be some tanking then, right?
Well, no, I mean, there's right now, there's like half the teams are in the playoffs and the other half aren't, so, now, but if you cut it to 8 teams are in a lottery, that could be a big difference in won-loss records.
Yeah. Could you, in fantasy football, I know you don't follow fantasy football, but there is a way to draft players where you bid on players. Could you potentially see that where the NFL could have, as opposed to the traditional draft order, now, you put up Abdul Carter, let's hear bids for Abdul Carter contract. Could you see something like that in the NFL to reward?
No, because the NFL practices communism, and that's anti-socialism. The NFL is what's good for one is good for all.
Oh, that is true.
and so if you did that, your haves would always outbid your have-nots.
I said that once, like 4 years ago, and I got called a communist. You are a blankety blank commie for saying that the NFL is practicing. And I go, but look at the rules. It does feel like a socialistic system. And now I got confirmation from Greg Gabriel. Look at that.
It always has been.
It has. It's
the way they share everything else, everything is done very. And the thing that's funny about it is probably 90% of the owners are diehard Republicans.
Oh, diehard capitalists to the T.
Yeah,
the thought of socialism.
And this type of thing, and part of it's to equalize, so you don't have a New York Yankee, LA Dodger type situation.
To me, it's the best way to run a sports league. Put all the money into a pool. That way you can allow small market teams. I am sick of seeing small market baseball teams have to give up on players that they recruited, put into the minor leagues, developed, and then when they're approaching superstardom, they can't sign them because they can't afford them. I don't like that. I hate that.
They haven't come out and said it, but I'm convinced that the cap keeps going up. Now, next year it's projected to be over $300 million. Maybe 310 million. It's gambling. It's the money they're making on gambling.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's going to keep going up.
Yep. We're going to see 100. Hopefully Greg and I will see $100 million quarterback someday. Not that I want them to make that much money, but that's where the league is heading.
Well, put it this way. I mean, Caleb's 2 years away from being able to get the earliest he can get a new contract.
Right.
Okay. And by that time, he could be a $60 to $70 million a year
easy
player based on the trends that are going on.
Yep. It's a scary thought because you want to have a team, with a lot of good players. And so if one player is eating up 10 to 20% of your salary cap, how do you do that?
They said just a couple of years ago that it's only going to be a few years when everybody's going to be making at least $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to over the cap and you look at the Bears top 50, every single one of them is over $1 million.
Yeah.
And so that day is gotten there. And I remember, when I was starting to sign guys years ago, they'd have we'd give them a, $500 bonus and $75,000 a year. Now it's a lot different.
A lot different. And I'm happy for those players. Those guys who are the 40th guy on the roster, they help so much to make for winning teams because of what they do in practice, what they do to challenge the starters, what they do to prepare for next week's opponent and so forth. And, after taxes, what are you left with if you're making $1 million? And after you pay your agent and after you do pay this,
it depends what state you're in. Now, if you're, in Miami and you're in Florida and you don't pay taxes, you still got a lot of money. If you're in California, well, Governor Newsom gets all your money.
He sure does.
And if you're in Illinois, Governor Pritzker gets a lot of your money.
He sure does. So, what do you think about what Samuel is asking here, Greg? What do you think of the idea of removing the quarterback contract from the salary cap?
I don't know. I haven't given it any thought. You can't. I think that brings in a way of cheating. I mean, there's an art to working that cap right, and you got to get Josh Allen being as much money as he making, like he instructs his agent, yeah, get me more money, but I don't want to hurt the ability to get free agents.
Right.
So you got to structure it certain ways. And then a part of that's what kind of player do you have? I mean, Tom Brady was that way. Tom Brady, I took less money, but he wanted to have good football teams.
And for that, I will forever applaud Tom Brady. That to me is one of the reasons he's one of the greatest, because he was totally into the team and sacrificing a few million here so that he can win more Super Bowl trophies. That makes a lot of sense.
It's not like he didn't make it somewhere else.
Mr. Shorty says, this is why I cough at players like Deo making 15+ million. He's just a rotational guy to me. That was Julius Peppert's type money 15
years ago. And what these, like the contracts these guys got this year in free agency, that's telling you what the cap's going to be 2 and 3 years down the road.
Absolutely.
It'll
be a bargain deal.
It's not. Dale's going to be, he's a rotation. Every defensive lineman in the league is a rotational player. It's how many snaps do they get within the rotation. And if he's playing more than 50% of the snaps, that puts him on the positive side.
I hope that we don't have quarterbacks excluded from the salary cap, because then you're going to allow some of these owners like Jimmy Haslam of Cleveland, that contract he served up to Deshaun Watson, you're going to see lots of other owners just throw money at the quarterback problem to try to solve it. And to me, that takes
what happens is when you get that, you're outraged when it first happens.
Right.
But then the agents say, well, if he got it, I got to get it for my guy. And so then they all get it. And now they've surpassed it.
Yep, exactly. Scroll says, Shorty, Julius Pepper's money doesn't even pay for gas nowadays, let alone eggs. All right, with that comment, we will close this episode of GTF with Greg Gabriel. Greg, by the way, I want to ask you, are you doing any writing for Windy City Gridiron anymore? I haven't seen any of your stuff.
No.
Okay. So you're taking a break from that, and I'm not taking a break from the work here at the Barroom Network. And make sure you check up with Shimon Draft Scouts YouTube channel. Greg, outstanding show. We'll see you next week, buddy.
See you later. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.